Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today working on a project in the shop, working on Monarch 10EE restoration in a kind of roundabout way. I'm actually helping out a friend of mine down in Florida, Thomas Danino, who is also restoring a 10EE round dial very similar to the one that I have. In fact, were made a couple of months apart, and he's ahead of me in his restoration. He's been very helpful to me because as he's been working through stuff, he's been kind of sending me some things that, he's had to make gaskets, he's had to get some hardware, he's had extra hardware, he's just sent it to me, etc., etc. Well, his lathe was missing a couple of parts, some pretty simple parts, some little thumb screw type parts that go on some pieces, and but he had found or borrowed some originals that need to be duplicated, and I'm actually missing a couple of these on my machine as well. So basically what I want to do today is make a couple of sets of these thumb screws that go on the electronic reversing system on that Monarch 10EE. So let me zoom you in here, show you what we got, and we're going to get over on the metal lathe and get these parts turned out. The parts that we're making here go with the ELSR system, or the electronic lead screw reverser that goes on my 10EE lathe, and this is a really neat feature. I've actually never had a lathe that had one. Everybody that has it really raves about how good it is, but basically when you're threading, it allows you to electronically reverse your lead screw for doing thread pitches, and you don't have to disengage your half nut when you do that. It makes for a more accurate thread, and I think it actually speeds up the process a little bit. So I'm actually looking forward to having that option. So the way that this thing is triggered is you got this little handle here, and when you pull it down, it pushes the lever in and turns it, maybe not quite a quarter of a turn, maybe an eighth of a turn there. And on this, you had a couple of set screws like this right here that were used to adjust where this lever was located on the screw. There's also a second piece here that also was on here, and it kind of does the same thing. I think it has some stops in it so that it'll automatically stops and reverses things, so you can adjust it if you're doing a little production run. On mine, so I've got two of the small set screws. One of them is missing. This is the one that Tom sent me. I'm also missing the large one. This is this one here. You can see someone just put a socket cap screw on that one. So the goal here is we want to make new parts here. While I've got two of the originals, they're not in great shape. I'm going to make a full set of these for my lathe. I'm going to make a full set of them for his lathe. So you need one of these per lathe. You need three of these per lathe. So I'm going to make a total of two of those and six of these. It's not a very complicated part. We got some knurling, some turning, etc. I'll also note that he sent a picture of the handle. This is this part right here, and you can tell that this one's got just a repair that was done to it. So originally you had that nice cast iron handle that came off of this. It looks like this one broke at some point in time, and whoever had this lathe, he just put a screw in there and bent it. It works, but I'm not crazy about it. I want to find or make a new lever here. It's probably a long shot to find one. This particular round dial 10EE, there just weren't that many of them made. And while Monarch made tons of 10EEs, their features and stuff changed over time, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that this is in a pretty tight range of machines that were made during the war, and it's probably going to be hard to find an original. There may be one out there. If anybody knows where one's at, let me know. Otherwise, we'll probably draw this up in CAD, 3D print some patterns, send them over to my buddy Clark Easterling, and just have him cast a new piece for me, and I'll have to machine it out and put it in here. Shouldn't be too bad to have to make one of those. We'll see where that goes later on. That's not a priority at the moment, though. So here's the parts in question. I'll zoom you in a little bit tighter so you can see them a little bit better, and then we'll get over to the lathe and start making them. Just a little close up again. There's the big one. Got a little knurling on there, and then the small ones again knurled. One thing I'm a little bit surprised about, even these that came off of mine, the knurling on all this is not that great. You can tell they got it done. Of course, this is mine and his were wartime machines, so they probably were just trying to get machines out the door, which knurling can be tough to get set up and looking really good. But hopefully I can make my knurling look a little bit better than that. We'll see. I'm not going to make no promises. Fairly straightforward again, just do some turning and get those threads on there. So let's go over to the metal lathe and see if we can knock these out. So as you can see, the shop cats are hard at work today, protecting the shop from foreign invaders, which they've been doing a good job of. They've been leaving the little surprises, but they're taking a much needed break right now, and I'm about to have to move them out of the way from where they are, so they're probably not going to be happy at me. But Marion and Ginger. So guys, I just got some 5/8 inch rod that I'm making this out of, and we'll start. First thing I want to do is get the end cut down. I'm actually going to put a live center in here because we're going to be knurling it. I just want to have some extra support, and we will be turning this one down. This one is not quite 5/8 inch in diameter. The smaller thumb screws are. I'll have to get a measurement on this, turn it down to the diameter, then we'll come in there with a knurling tool. And I'm going to knurl everything first, and then we'll basically machine off. I'm not going to try to machine it and then knurl it. Knurling is going to be the first operation once we get everything to size. So let's fire things up. So we'll just start by facing that. And then we'll get a center drill in there and center that, put a center in it. And put a little small center in there. Should be all we need. I'm going to let this stick out about, we'll just go about 5 inches, which will give us a little bit extra material than what we need. All right, that should be good. All right, so this original one here, it's measuring, I'm just going to say 550 thousandths. That knurling's going to raise it up a little bit. So we're about 625 right now, so we got 75 thousandths. I need to take off the diameter. So I'm going to come in here and touch off. We're just going to do about 40 thousandths on the first pass. Get a good measurement here. Looks like we're about 590, which means I need to take another 40 thousandths off. I'll just dial that in. Nothing precision on this measurement at all. So we'll just clean that up. It's just going to be the outside diameter of that thumb screw once it's knurled. All right, that's it. Let's change out our cutter here. We're going to be putting in a knurling tool. Just trying to get that where it's kind of self-centering, but I want to be putting kind of even pressure on it. It needs to come down just a little bit more. I think that's pretty good right there. I am slowing down my feed here for this, or my speed for it. And I'm going to put me some cutting oil on here. And with this knurling tool, we're going to bring it in there and let it kind of start forming those knurls. And we'll just engage the feed and let it feed down and see what we end up with here. Knurling is kind of a forming operation. You can kind of see here on this knurl on top, we just have those serrations cut into it. I got 3 different rollers on this one for different size knurls. That's kind of a medium size one that I'm using. And basically what it's doing is it moves across, it's cutting, well, not really cutting, it's just forming that pattern in there. These rollers roll around, and you got a crisscross. You got 2 different match sets. So one side cuts one side of the knurl, the other one cuts the other cross hatch, and end up with that nice texture on there that gives you some grip, like on a thumb screw whenever you're turning it. So we'll just let this cut on across, and we'll see what it looks like once we get through. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's actually a really nice knurl pattern. It is a finer knurl than the original. I might have needed to use that coarser set of wheels in here, this one here, to match it a little bit better. But you know what, guys, I'm fine with it. I think this is just going to be just fine. So we're going to go with it and let her roll. All right, let me get set up. We're going to turn that in for threading. So next thing I'm going to do is I want to thread this on the end. Now this is a 5/16 24 thread. I've already measured that. It goes in just a little over 1/2 inch. That's about 525 thousandths. So I think what I'm going to do is come in here with my tool. I'm going to just touch off on the end here, and I'm going to set my 0 on the digital readout. And that way I can measure my depth of cut here. When I get to 525, I'll know I'm deep enough. And it's just a quick, easy way to measure that. And again, the diameter is going to be 5/16, which is 0.3125. So okay, well, let's speed our lathe back up. We'll come in here, we'll touch off, and 2, 4, 6, 8. It's going to take about 100 thousandths. We're going to go to 525 on the depth, which is about right there. I'm going to get a measurement on that outside diameter. We're at 448. I'm going to put that in my digital readout. So what I want to do is I want to make this number up here measure the actual diameter. And so we'll just 0 it out there. I'm going to put in 0.448, enter. And now whenever I'm moving in my cutter, it knows where it's at, and I can pretty much just dial that in to my 5/16, which is going to be 0.3125. So for example, I'm just going to go ahead and go down, do another 100 thousandths pass, and that should be about 0.348. And we'll verify that here in a minute. All right, we'll go ahead and take another 100 thou here. Let's measure where we're at again, just to verify our digital readout. Yeah, we're within 1 thousandths or 2, so I think we're good. I'm just going to dial this into 0.3125. Whoops, too far. Let me come back out. Go back in. 3, 1. Right there's where we want to be. This will be our final pass. Now down here in the bottom, I'm just going to manually dial in a little bit. I'm not going to be able to thread all the way up to that shoulder, so I just want to have a little place there where it would, if I do screw it all the way down there, it's not going to get tight. And next thing I want to do is while I'm set up here cutting, you see we got a little piece there that's kind of turned down just a little bit, and that diameter is about a 1/2 inch, a little over 1/2 inch, 5/20. So I'm just going to dial in here and touch off. And I'm just going to dial that into 5/20 on my digital readout, about right there. And we'll just feed in a little bit and clean that up. That's about what it is. That'll be good. Actually, it's this end, but still, that'll be good. All right, now I want to change my cutter. I'm going to just put a threading tool in here, and all I want to do is give me a nice little lead-in radius there for my threads. Instead of single point threading this, I'm going to use a die. I'm going to cheat. I don't do this very often, but today we're going to do this. So let me show you what we're going to do. So to cut these threads, instead of single point threading like I usually like to do, we're going to cheat a little bit, and we're going to use this little tool here. So what I've got is just a regular die. This is a round die like you would use a tap and die set. I've got the right die in there for this thread, and this is a really neat little setup. It's something if you don't want a single point, and for a little production work, this works really good when you just need to do something consistent. I also like this setup when I'm going up to a shoulder because I don't have to worry about stopping that cutter going in. And anyway, we're going to try this out. I don't use this setup very often. I normally single point, but this is what we're going to do. Notice that this piece here, whenever I'll bring my tailstock in, we'll get this started, this just slides. So once it starts cutting, it's just going to pull itself in. And when it gets up close to the shoulder, I'll stop the lathe, and then we'll reverse the lathe and back it right off. So we'll just bring it up kind of close. I will lock the tailstock down. I am going to slow my speed down considerably for this. So it's about 76 RPMs. And we will lube this up really good. And what I'm going to do is we'll come in here, we'll start feeding that in. It's cutting itself in, it's pulling itself in right now. Once we get down to the bottom there, I'll stop the lathe. I'm going to reverse the lathe. And now we will let it back off. There we go. Quick and easy. You can see how things are coming along here. Next, I want to cut this little back part here. So I'm just putting the part up on there as a reference, and I'm just going to kind of set where I want to start that. Coming out right there. And again, this is nothing critical. Oh, I need to reverse my lathe back. So I'm going to come in here again. We're going to go down. I just dial into 525 on the about 520, I think it was, and we're just going to let that turn out a little ways. That's all we need. I'm going to pull that one out. Put this one in here. I want to break that corner on the front. Just make it where it feels good in the hand. Come in here with a parting tool. Let's figure out where we want to cut it off at. Needs to be about right there. Tell you what, it's sticking out too far. I'm getting some flex. I'm just going to take this over to the bandsaw and we'll cut that off. Then we'll flip it around and finish the back side of this. So let me just take that to the bandsaw. So we just cut that off over on the bandsaw. I'm going to come in here. We'll chuck this up. All right. And face that back side. And then put a chamfer on there to just break that edge. And that first one should be done. Here we go. I'm gonna make another one just like it. Do that other one off camera. So continuing on, now we need to make these little short thumb screws, and a very similar process. For whatever reason, these are a little bit larger in diameter, so we turned the other one down to, was it 550 thousandths? This is 5/8, which is 625 thousandths. So we're just going to basically knurl right on top of this. I've got to make 6 of these just for stick out purposes. I'm going to probably do 3 at a time and go from there. So we will start as before with facing our stock and putting a center hole in there, center drill. Come in here, touch off. There we go. Put our live center on that and give us some support. Put a little oil on here for that. And we'll let her work her way across. I got a little run out in that part. Not going to matter for what we're doing here. And the nice thing about this setup is that will kind of automatically adjust for that run out. So again, no big deal. We'll just let that work its way across, and that knurl should match the other one. I'm just going to zero off my tool. I'll zero this on the digital readout. Again, 325 thousandths deep is what we need. Touch off here. I'm going to go in 100 thousandths. And we'll watch 325 on the digital readout on the depth. 200, 325 right there. Do another 100 thousandths. Put a measurement on that. At 425. And right on the money. So we got our threading tool here. Put plenty of oil on that. And let's come in here. Let that roll up on there. Thread down to the bottom. Reverse the lathe. And we'll set our parting tool up, and I'm just using the original part kind of as a guide to get my depth of cut there. And we'll part that off. There we go. One down. I'll hit that on the sander, knock that little tit off of there, and should be done. So I got 5 more of those to do. I'm gonna knock those off camera. And voila, look at there. We got all of our parts made. So this I'll be sending Tom a set, keeping a set for myself. The ones on the top here are the originals. These are the ones he sent me. This is the one I had off of mine, and the reproduction hardware. I think it's going to be just fine. I think these look great. One thing I'll note is I was noticing on this original one here, in the very center of that, you can see there's a little brass plug in there. And I was like, what is going on with that? I was really scratching my head. And I was going to just mention it real quickly. Now you look over here on the part and you see there's a brass plug down inside of that. So instead of the metal shaft going on to the other shaft beneath it, they put a little piece of brass down in the bottom to protect that shaft. And basically what's happened is just like this one, we had a center drill in there. And over the years where they had cranked down on that, it had just, that hole had become filled with brass from that plug down beneath it. So that kind of, when I saw that, that kind of relieved my wondering what that was and if that was an important design feature that we needed to duplicate. The way I made these, that one's got a center hole in it. That one does not, because I didn't have the center on there, and I think one of these has a center hole in them, the rest of them don't. Not going to matter. Not going to matter one bit. The originals had centers in them, but it's not going to matter. So there we go. I'm going to get these packed up and in the mail to Tom, and we're going to call this project done. Well, there are the new thumb screws installed on the parts where they're going to go. Like we said before, I'm going to see what we can do about getting this back to original, either finding or making a replacement for that. This one's going to work just fine. I believe what you got here is you got 2 screws. This one here, I guess, clamps down onto the rod and locks it in place. This one loosens up and you've got a fine adjust right here. This is for your stops. And you can then lock that in place. Same thing down here. This one will slide, lock it in there, and your fine adjust. That one's too tight right now, but you can adjust that there. So that's the whole purpose of these. Not sure why they had a longer one there, but that's the way they came from the factory. So that's the way we're gonna put them back on there. I'm sure there was a good reason. I just don't know what it is. Well, there we go. That'll be a wrap. One more little thing knocked out on the 10EE project before we even really get started on it good. Thanks to Tom. I'll have that checked off, and when the time comes to put this thing back together, I won't have to worry about all that. So thanks so much, Tom, for prompting me to do that. Glad I could play a role in getting some parts made for yours as well. And there you go. With that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up. Greatly appreciated. Comments, greatly appreciated as well. Those both help out with the analytics on the channel, getting more people to actually watch my stuff, which is always a good thing for me and the channel. Also, big thank you to all the Patreons out there, the guys who support the channel financially. Again, without your guys' help, we really couldn't do a lot of what we do and taking the time to make these videos. So really appreciate the guys that do that. And with that, that will be again a wrap, and we will catch you guys on the next video. As always, thank you for watching.